Hey, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a project recipe and we are going to do the Christmas charm collection. And this one is really cute. I am so excited. I love this collection. The holiday time is just a magical time anyway, but I really think our designers at the home office hit it out of the park when they put this collection together. It's everything that reminds me of the holidays, and maybe it's because I spent some time living over in Europe and I kind of have that flavor of decor in my mind when I think about Christmas. But I just really love this one. I really think it's beautiful, and I think you will too. Let's check it out and we'll get started. All right, here's my desktop for today. And you can tell from my nails that I'm doing this in October, and I can't believe we're doing Christmas, but you know, time flies, right? Time for Christmas again. So today's project recipe is for Christmas charm. That's the new collection that just came out for the holidays, and it's super cute, and I really like this collection. But that being said, I kind of had a difficult time choosing papers to do this project recipe with. And I was trying to choose papers that were a little different than the sample that we're given here, like usual, so that you have an alternative example to look at and kind of see different combinations of the papers. And anyway, I had a little bit of a challenge trying to decide on which papers to use. Really, we're only choosing 3. You're choosing 2 base papers, and then you're choosing 2 designer papers. One will be punched using the new Ribbons and Bows Board Maker, decorative border maker punch, and or decorative border punch, sorry. And then the other one is going to be mostly used for mats, but they do use these 2 small ones right here as to represent these 2 gifts here at the top, which is fine. You could make those gifts, or you could actually throw a very tiny little photo in there, or you could use them as bases for your embellishments as well. So they kind of leave it up to you. A 2-inch piece to represent a gift is a cute size, but actually a little bit on the large side. So anyway, just some ideas. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to review the papers that I have out here, and we'll talk about what I've chosen and why. So I've chosen these this beautiful kind of floral green to be our base page. This looks to me like a really old wallpaper. Does it not look that way to you? I don't know. It just spoke to me of like a billiard room or something. And I love the argyle on the back, but I'm going to use both of these pages as my base pages for this layout. And then these are the 2 papers that I decided to use for my designer papers that we're going to cut. So this one has sort of asterisks and dots. This one is more of a plaid. And we've got another fantastic plaid here and the holly berries. So I love this plaid, but for the purposes of this particular layout, I'm not going to use this plaid. I think we're going to use the asterisks and the dots. We'll see when we get to putting it together. We'll flip and mix as it permits. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grab my 12-inch trimmer, and we're going to go ahead and trim up these 2 papers. So the first one that we're going to, the peach is going to be represented by my red, the red plaid, and then the stars are going to be designer paper number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cut designer paper number 2 just so that I can get that done and set aside, and then we can proceed with punching and doing some other things with designer paper number 1. Okay, so we need 6 3 3/4 squares. So we're going to go ahead and cut at 3 3/4 here. All right, and we're going to go ahead and do another 3 3/4. And it doesn't really matter which direction you cut your paper for these 3 3/4 inch squares, because they're squares, so you can turn them if you want to, but also using this particular paper with the plaid on the back, it doesn't really make too big of a difference which direction I go. So if I want, I can flip it over and no one will care which side I cut it on or which direction the paper was facing. So definitely if you have a directional paper and you weren't cutting squares, then you would want to be careful about the direction of your paper. But since you're cutting squares, it doesn't really matter. So 3 3/4, and we're going to do another 3 3/4. Notice that I stacked those strips together because it just cuts down on the number of cuts that I need to make. We're going to set those strips aside, so we've got all 6 of those done. Then we're going to take the remainder of this, and we're going to cut this at 4 inches. So we're going to slide it over to 4 inches. This 1/2 inch piece is extra, so I'm just going to set it to the side. We want, and I'm going to cut the smaller pieces first. We want a 2 inch piece. So I'm going to cut this at 2 inches. And the reason is because I've got more paper to work with if I cut the smaller one first. If I wait and cut the smaller one later, then it's sometimes harder to hold on to the paper. So it's just easier, I have found, to cut the smaller pieces first. Alright, so then we're going to do a 3 inch piece, so 3 by 4, and then we need a 6 inch piece. So I'm going to move my arm out because my little cheater plastic piece has still not been replaced. But actually, let me just take a second, and I'm going to replace that right now so that you can actually see how I do that. So I have this little piece of plastic. It was just a part of like the layered embellishments from Croptoberfest. Work great for this. Okay, so I have written a 6. I've put a line and I've put an arrow. Okay, so the 6 inch mark is going to be, I'm going to put a healthy bit of adhesive on here. The 6 inch mark is going to be where the arrow is pointing. Okay, so I'm going to line up at the top of my arm, right up here. I'm going to line up that the straight edge along this edge of my trimmer, and the edge of that plastic is going to be where the 6 inch mark is. Okay, then I'm going to just lay it down, and I'm going to burnish it on there because I already have a little bit of adhesive residue stuck on my trimmer right there. And all this does is it allows me to take my paper and put it on there without opening that arm, and I can measure to 6 inches and cut without having to worry about opening the arm up. That's all that is. Okay. All right, so now we're going to just set my trimmer to the side for a second. We're going to punch 2 rows of the bows, the ribbon and bows. And so we're going to push this all the way to the shoulder and the back. Make sure this edge up here is lined up with one of the marks on the front of the punch. Do you see those marks? Here's one, here's the other. You can do either direction. You can feed through from left to right or from right to left, so depending on what's more comfortable for you is going to determine where you start that punch. Okay, you line it up, you punch it, slide it through until the design matches. And this particular punch has a very specific mat. You just have to feed it through till the bows match the blue. Okay, and when they match the blue, just make sure your paper is pushed all the way to the back and punch. There is a little notch right down here that you can match to the notch in the blue right here. That will help you on a repetitive pattern like this. Sometimes it's difficult to determine where you need to put it in, or where you need to stop so that you can punch. Okay, so we're going to do another one, and all I've done is flip my paper around all the way around to the back. So this was the side I punched before, and now I'm punching the opposite side of my paper. That way I can trim off both of those rows of little notches that are left at the same time, and it just saves me a step. All right. So now I'm just going to grab all of my confetti and toss this. Sometimes that in that confetti you have little pieces that you might want to save and use in a shaker card or something later, but this one doesn't really have a lot of that. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to just trim off those little bits. The little notches that help us align our punch. They're just barely there, but enough. Excuse me, enough that it will kind of goof things up if you leave them on there. Okay, now we need to cut these to 4x6 mats. So we're going to measure to 4 inches and cut. And then we're going to measure to 6 inches, which is the edge of my plastic. Cut. 4x6. Then we've got another 4x6, and we're going to just trim this at 4 inches again. That piece is extra. We're going to trim this at 6 inches. Trim that at 6 inches, and then the plans here say we can punch more of our border from this one. So I'm just gonna hold off on that for right now. We will see what we want to do when we get there, okay? Because that would make a really nice mat, maybe on a different layout if we wanted it. So that's what we're gonna do for right now. Okay, so I'm gonna bring back down one of my base sheets, and we're going to actually, let's bring both of them down, and then we can take a look at how this lays out and decide if we like it this way or if we might want to flip things around. So I know that these papers may be a little bit difficult to see given that my background is green, but hopefully it won't be too difficult. Okay, I'm going to set those down, set those down. We've got this one we'll get to in just a second. This one's going to go over here. We've got these three. And now remember I said I thought I wanted to use the stars. So we're gonna lay it out using the asterisks and dots. And then we're gonna see if, let's do one side one way and one side with the plaid and just see. We'll just see if maybe we like the plaid better. But I think I like the asterisks and dots just fine. But you know, somebody else might like this one. Alright, so we're going to do that like so. Then we're going to have this one's going to go here. These bows are going to go across right here. Like that. Then we're going to have red, we're going to do a red mat there, and two red mats here. And we've got this one that kind of just jaunts to the side right there, like so. Alright, and then these two would go up here. So if we're going to do plaid, let's see, we would want this one to be plaid. And then maybe these would be stars. We like that better. At first glance, it looks like a lot of plaid, but when we put a photo on top of it, it's not going to be nearly as noticeable. You're just going to see red around these photos and red and green around these photos. So it's a little bit different situation, a little bit different scenario than what you're looking at right here. But let's see. We're going to flip these over and take a look at what this might look like if they were all asterisks and dots. And then I would probably make those be plaids up there just for something different. Well, let's see. Let me find... Let's find some templates just to lay on here so that we have a better idea of what we're looking at. Alright, so there is our 3.5 inch. I don't have another 3.5 inch. I could trim one of these 3 3/4. Let's see. So you can tell that you're not going to see a whole lot of color around the edge. There is color, but not a super huge amount. There is a 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, so you can see there's just a tiny bit of the edge around that red as well. I think I'm going to go with the plaid. I like the plaid better, I think. Well, that surprises me, but I'd like the plaid better. Okay. So then let's go ahead and put make all of these plaid. And then we'll make these stars. I like that better. Okay, so we are going to I'm going to go ahead and put these down. Now, I have seen it where people have kind of turned these slightly so that the photos are a little not straight across, which you can certainly do. It's not the way that this is designed, but you definitely could add that element if you wanted to. I feel like the holidays are whimsical, so I like tilting the photos just a little bit. I feel like it adds some of the innocence and whimsy of the holidays into my layout. So I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and put each of these corners at 1/8 of an inch. I'm just adjusting it ever so slightly up. It's really not a lot. I'm going to make this one do the same. If you turn it at too much of an angle, then you end up with more of a problem than, or more of an angle than you probably need. So like this one, you can see is higher. I can see that it's higher. So let me just fix that, because that's not gonna, I want to try to make them about the same. There, that's better. All right, and then this one we'll tilt the other direction. And it's just barely going to overlap each one. Just the tiniest little bit. Okay, then we're going to take our, actually I'm going to add my adhesive to these, but I'm going to put these on, maybe not, maybe we'll go ahead and add this. Okay, I'm going to add this so that it is all the way against the edge over here. Try to make it as straight as possible. This line of ribbons and bows can kind of bend, so try to make it straight. I think mine is a little bit more bent than I'd like it, but that's the way it goes. All right, and then we're going to go 1/8 of an inch in to match the 1/8 of an inch where this corner sits. I love the kind of old-fashioned look of this collection. I feel like it's a really nice nod to Christmases of the past. I also feel like it kind of is a nice nod to like a European style, which I like. So all right, so this one's going to be a little bit at an angle, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing over here. And then we're going to make it the opposite, so that All right, so here's a good way to judge that angle. See here, this is about 1/2 inch from the corner to the side. So keeping in mind my 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, I want it to be about 1/2 inch from here to here. And then that will give me the angle that I want for that edge. That doesn't necessarily work here. However, we put the point at the margin where we want it here, and then that 1/2 inch would be up here. And then that will help ensure that that angle is right. Okay. All right, and I'm going to put my pages together at the center, and then that's going to allow me to match up where the bows should be so that they will be straight across. Okay, so like that. And again, I'm going to match up my papers in the center. And then that way I can match up where these photos are mounted as well. And keep them in the same place so that all of those look perfectly aligned when the pages are open and together. All right, those can go like so. Okay, the key for the packages up here is that you're making them touch the photos so that they are kind of a cohesive unit up there. Okay, now in order to do the bows for the packages, we are going to need to go ahead and punch some more, which means that that piece that we had, which I think is here. It is. So we're going to need to punch a little bit of this piece in order to make that work. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and go ahead and just punch another row of bows. Okay, so 3 punches and we are good to go with that. Let me grab my scissors, and I still haven't found my precision point scissors, guys. They're with my sewing and I just haven't dug out my sewing. So I apologize, but that is what it is. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to kind of curve a bow, follow the natural curve of the punch. Okay, and then we've got a bow for this package, and we've got a bow for just going to go ahead and cut this one as well. Use your repositionable adhesive so you can just run it right across. Stick that on like so. Now, another cute little thing that you might want to consider doing is taking your red, I'm going to use this one actually, I'm going to leave that strip. Take your red that you have left over and go ahead and cut about 3/8 of an inch. Cut two pieces at about 3/8 of an inch. If you're not sure how to find 3/8 of an inch on this trimmer, you'll notice that you've got your two cutting lines on the mat right here. Then you've got the beginning of the blue, and you've got the shiny part of the blue. So there's an extra little line here where the shiny bit starts. That's the line that I use as my 3/8 of an inch mark. Okay, so we're going to do that, then we're going to take this and turn it around, and we're going to stack those two pieces. And we're going to make these, so my packages are 2 inches high. I want these to be 1 and, let's say 1 3/4. And just do your best to keep those together and stacked. I'm just going to cut them so they're both 1 3/4. Going to flip these over, add some repositionable adhesive, and then I'm going to bring them up here. I'm going to center them and tuck them underneath my bow, just a little. We all know that not every package is perfect, so if it's not completely centered, that's okay. Alright, so now we've got a little ribbon running down our package to match the bow. Like so. And depending on whether you added your adhesive to your the ribbons on your bow, you could kind of just sort of bend these a little bit. They're not going to stay bent up when you add your page protector on top, but it will give just a little bit of a shadow because they're not stuck down. Alright, so let's see what other embellishments we can add to this. These are the embellishments for Christmas cheer, and I've already attached them to my cover sheet for my paper with just a little bit of repositionable adhesive, so they should pop right off when I want to use them. And we're going to we're just going to add just a little bit of something, or we could add something from the sticker pack. So let me see if we could use one here. I kind of like this that just says Merry Christmas, and I feel like it would be really nice right in there. I actually kind of feel like I want to adjust this package right here. So let me see if I can get him to come off and let me place him a little differently. I think I want him to be just a little bit, I want him to be higher, but I don't want him to look like he's not touching the, okay. here's what we're going to do. I'm going to flip him over, and I'm going to adjust this guy too. So hopefully you didn't stick yours down yet. Okay, this guy's going to come down and be a little bit over the area that I expect will be the mat showing underneath the photo. Then this one can be a little bit higher and won't be as noticeable. Like, it won't look as out of place, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm going to grab some foam squares. You might notice I've got kind of old school foam squares that I'm using right now, which is just because I grabbed a package and wasn't paying too close attention, so I ended up with one of the old ones, which is okay. They still work. They are good to go. Alright, so we're just going to add this guy in, and he's popped up, so if he's a little lower, it's okay because I can still slip a photo underneath him. And then I think, because we've got presents up there, we probably ought to add some presents maybe down here. And it just so happens that we have 3 cute little presents right here. So we can put a foam square on the back of this guy, and let me see if I can fit one of these on the back of this guy. Yeah, just barely. It barely fits. Okay. We can put that guy right there, and that guy right there, and because of where the foam square is, the photo that goes here will slide right down behind those. And then we've got one more little present we can use and put somewhere if we want to. I don't know if I really want to put it on there. It's going to get lost for sure. But we could add him in right there and then maybe do something different on so I'll put that guy there, and then let's see. On the sample, I just want to point this out so that you are aware. On the example that we were given, you can see that they used even more of these extra punched bows and made a little tower of bows on this present, like one really big bow at the top of that, which is cute and fine. They used one gift here, they used another gift up here, and a different title. I think that's a sticker that they added up here. And these look like they are probably stickers as well. So that works, and it's very cute. I think I'm just going to leave mine the way it is. I'm not going to worry about adding another embellishment. I think it works just fine like that. And I'm going to fill all of these up with photos, so I'm not really too worried about it. But I could use one of these down here and make it a journal box. And if I did make it a journal box, I would probably add just a little tiny sticker of some kind to the journal box, and then it would give it a little more of an eye triangle, visual triangle to it. But I think if I fill all of these up with photos, that's going to be more than enough on this page. So, Christmas charm, let me know what you think about it. I know this looks really, really busy, like we said, but when you have your, that's a little small, that's a 3x3, just in case you're wondering. When you have your embellishments on here, it won't, I mean your photos on here, it won't look quite so busy. It'll be a little bit more calm. Does that make sense? Like so. All right. Hopefully that helps you get a better idea. And also an idea of what it would be like to put a 3-inch photo in there, which I don't think looks bad either. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. This one goes together pretty quickly, I think. And I hope it's helpful for you. I hope it's one that you'll enjoy putting together for your family and your special photos of the holidays, and or even photos of another kind. This would be perfect and super easy and quick to put together for a birthday party or any other occasion where you are giving gifts. Retirement, you name it. Okay? Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Make it a great day.